So the royal baby has a name. It's Louis Arthur Charles, His Royal Highness Prince Louis of Cambridge.
I like that title.
It's lovely. It's a big name for a little baby.
Aww.
But there you go.
Cute.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Outnumbered starts right now.
And we are awaiting possible new remarks from President Trump as he welcomed German Chancellor Angela Merkel to the White House just moments ago. This caps off a dramatic week of world diplomacy for the president, with a wide array of major international issues on the table, including whether the president will decide to pull out of the controversial Iran nuclear deal. It's something European allies like Chancellor Merkel don't want to see happen. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Town Hall editor and Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich, host of Kennedy on Fox Business Kennedy, commentator and Fox News contributor Rachel Campos-Duffy, and joining us in the center seat, Fox News political analyst and co-host of The Five, Juan Williams, is Outnumbered. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you guys. It's a rainy day, but lots of basketball coming this weekend. I'm a big basketball guy.
I caught the NFL draft. I thought that was
Yeah, that was
going
good.
To be at the Wizards game tonight, I hear.
That's where I'm going. But I
fancy.
couldn't believe that Cleveland took Baker Mayfield. I just thought, isn't that like a rerun of that last quarterback?
He's Johnny Manziel.
That's what I thought.
Version 2.0.
Okay.
Oh, goodness gracious. Again, happy Friday.
Well, happy Friday to you
Get
guys.
to the news. President Trump and German Chancellor Angela Merkel just meeting at the White House right now. Among the big issues on the table for them, the Iran nuclear deal. President Trump has until May 12th to decide whether to pull the United States out of that agreement. President Trump discussed earlier this week with French President Emmanuel Macron. This visit will likely have a different feel, I can imagine, as President Trump appears to enjoy a closer relationship with the leader of France than he does with that of Germany. Meanwhile, U.S. officials are raising concerns about Iran's support for terrorism in the lead up to President Trump's decision on that nuke deal. And here's Defense Secretary James Mattis with lawmakers yesterday.
We're working with our European allies on it at this time, and again, the decision has not been made. We all recognize the JCPOA was an imperfect arms control agreement.
Live outside the White House, our very own Kevin Cork. Kevin?
Harris, good to be with you. As you can well imagine, a very different feel, as you pointed out, as the German Chancellor makes her way here to the White House, different when compared to Emmanuel Macron of France. But we're talking about trade, security, and, of course, the Iran nuclear deal, all on the agenda as that working lunch has already actually begun here at the White House. The German Chancellor arriving just about 5 minutes ago. The two leaders, as you pointed out earlier, have previously met here at the White House, and they're rumored to have a bit of a frosty but professional rapport. Well, within the last hour, the president was actually talking about the upcoming meetings. He was hosting America's Winter Olympians here at the White House, and he joked that maybe he could use a bit of help in working out a few deals with Merkel.
So now I'm going to see and meet with Angela Merkel, and we're going to talk about the United States and Germany. We are in the midst of a lot of very good negotiations. If anybody wants to help me negotiate, I'll take your help.
Now, that quip, of course, coming amid important discussions about trade and, yes, the Iran deal. And there's actually a bit of a race against the clock here, Harris, for the president. Keep in mind he has until May the 1st to make a decision on a number of possible tariffs affecting the EU and Germany in particular, and, of course, until May 12th to determine if the U.S. will, in fact, vacate the Iran nuclear accord. Ask if it was fair to compare this visit with the previous visit earlier this week. Well, White House senior advisor Kellyanne Conway had this to say.
France and Germany are great allies of the United States of America. Obviously, there are issues that affect all of us at the same time. And I've seen some of those comparisons. I think every leader is different, every relationship is different. But the important part is the relationship between the countries. And we're very happy that Chancellor Merkel is making another trip here to the United States.
Making another trip. Now, the Macron visit was hailed as successful, especially in Europe, because it appeared, at least, to move the president just a bit toward working on maybe a possible new Iran deal, while not entirely scrapping the existing one. But keep in mind, obviously, there's a lot more there than meets the eye. And this, by the way, Harris, is all happening, as you point out, amid new concerns about Iran's continued terrorism and destabilizing behavior in the region. That will certainly be on the agenda as the president and the chancellor meet this afternoon. But for now, back to you.
It's kind of interesting, Kevin, how sometimes the actions in the present give a little fodder, if you will, to the decisions in the past. This is exactly what the president was talking about. Good to see you. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, so I just mentioned on the couch, and you heard Kevin allude to it as well. They may be having tea. I'm going to guess it's iced tea. Only Katie heard it. I thought everybody heard it, but I said it.
Ice of lemon, actually, is what she said.
Yes, maybe a little bit of bitters. So talk to me, if you can, Juan, about what you think their relationship is like and why it matters or doesn't matter.
Well, I think it has a great deal of significance globally, and I'll tell you why, Harris. On the immigration issue, clearly President Trump has staked out the idea that, you know, you can only do so much and you should only do so much, but he's been critical of Merkel for allowing in millions of immigrants and, in a sense, exacerbated the tensions in Germany, and that has made her feel somewhat under attack from Trump. And also then, I think the big item, and the one that may be leading to the ice frosty tea that you were talking about, is trade.
Tea could be delicious.
Yes, because this is going to be a refrain from what the president heard from President Macron of France.
Well, will it be, though? Because they both are on the same page, Macron and Merkel.
That's what I'm
about
saying. It'll be a refrain.
The tariffs and... But will it... Have they moved at all on Iran, though?
On Iran, now you're having an interesting moment, because remember, after Macron spoke with President Trump, he went to the Congress, did an address to Congress, and said it's an important deal. The verification system is in place. We should try to maintain it. We can work on the nuclear arms as a baseline for then trying to halt additional weapons, armaments being developed by the Iranians. And I think Merkel is going to, again, reiterate that same message to President Trump. And what we heard from Mattis today was no decision has been made. We're still gathering facts. You get a different impression, though, from the people inside the White House.
Kennedy?
I tend to agree with Mattis on this. I think it's a horrible deal. I really do. I think there are so many holes in it, as we've discussed. There's so much opacity in areas where we should know what's going on. We should know where they're making certain materials. We don't. There's not full surprise inspections like there absolutely should be. So it is very problematic. And I think, given that, it is possible to remodel this deal. I also think that Angela Merkel is smart enough to know that she has to maintain a successful relationship with the United States in order to have, you know, one of the few booming economies in Europe. It's necessary. She doesn't have the emotional or social connection with the president, and he tends to do better with people that he likes.
Well, most of us do.
And it's true. Well, but him in particular, I don't think it's completely necessary that they bro down and have this super yummy romance, politically speaking, but I do think that they have to figure something out in order to mutually...
Well, we saw something similar. I mean, the circumstance is different, but similar in terms of relationship building with President Obama and Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. So, I mean, we have seen this sort of thing before. Rachel, I want to get your thoughts.
Well, first of all, with regard to the Iran deal, Mattis is saying it's not a great deal. It can be improved. Trump is saying, let's scrap it. And I think this is part of that whole negotiation that Trump is so famous for. He's saying, this is a bad deal. I'm willing to negotiate on this, but it's got to be better. That's what I think is happening there, with that sort of space between what Mattis is saying and what the president is saying. With regards to the relationship, yeah, it's obvious that it's a very different relationship than he has with Macron. Merkel has made it very clear she is not going to flatter the president. Everyone knows that the president kind of likes that, and she refuses to do that. The president's approval numbers in Germany is like 11%. So there's some domestic consumption in that, but I think it's a mistake.
Our president's approval numbers
Our
in
president's
Germany
approval is
11%.
11% in Germany.
He's president here of the United States.
I know. Listen, I don't.
Who cares? Germans don't like you. Big deal.
I agree. But the point I want to make with this, I think it's a mistake on the part of Angela Merkel to not try a little bit, because the point is Germany needs America more than we need them in trade. And that's not to say that I think we should have a trade war, but they send more goods to the United States than any other country in the world. And the way that the trade system is set up right now, it was based on World War II, when we were trying to help Germany become more self-reliant. We got to take the training wheels off, and that's the discussion that's going on on right now, and
Okay.
it's important to Germany.
I want to try to get Katie in
Sure.
here, and you know I was just messing with you, Juan. Well, it's like the president's approval ratings are north of 50. You almost got up off the couch. So, Katie, I just want to say this real quickly in case I have to cut in on you. So, Angela Merkel and the president now have wrapped this up. We're waiting for tape pool spray, which is what happens when one of us media outlets are allowed to roll what we shot inside that room with them in the Oval Office. So, as soon as that comes up, we will play that out as brand new video, so we'll know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Iran, North Korea, 2 points that they hit.
The interesting thing about Angela Merkel is that she actually has something in common with Donald Trump in the sense that for a long time, Germany was getting very fed up with pulling the weight of all of Europe. And they went around Europe and said, look, we have the strongest economy and all of the rest of the countries are feeding off of that. So they do have that in common. But if we take away the personality conflicts of this, we have a strong alliance with Germany. They've helped us a lot with taking on ISIS in Iraq and Syria. They've been very helpful in sending troops to be advisors in those areas. In terms of the Iran deal, it's interesting to see the differences with how the Obama administration negotiated with the Europeans and how the Trump administration is negotiating with them. The issues on the table now include attacking things outside of just a nuclear program, including terrorism and other things. And I think we have the pool spray coming up, so I will end my comments there. But there's a lot to do with other things than just a nuclear program.
And Katie, that was perfect setup because those are some of the things that we know that they are going to be talking about as we are getting some notes out of what they met on just a few moments ago. So we have the German Chancellor Angela Merkel at the White House in the Oval Office moved inside because of the weather now, and the President of the United States. Let's watch.
They like you. Yeah? They like you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Chancellor Merkel, and I will say that you can rest assured she was going to win that election, and congratulations on winning. And by the way, a formal congratulations. That was a great victory. We're working on a lot of different subjects, including trade, including NATO, including military of all types, and we have a really great relationship, and we actually have had a great relationship right from the beginning, but some people didn't understand that. But we understand it, and that's what's important. But a very extraordinary woman, and it's an honor to have you at the White House. Thank you very much, Angela.
Dankeschön. Dankeschön auch für den Empfang und für die Glückwünsche zur Wiederwahl. Die Regierungsbildung hat etwas gedauert, aber jetzt war es mir ganz wichtig, als ersten Besuch außerhalb Europas hier nach Washington zu kommen und unsere Zusammenarbeit zu vertiefen. Und ich freue mich auf die Gespräche.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very warm reception and also for the words of congratulation. You know, it took some time to build the government, that is certainly true, but I thought it was very important on this first visit outside of Europe to come to the United States, to come to Washington in order to yet again underline that we wish to deepen our relationship further, and I hope and trust, and I'm very much looking forward to the very good talks that I trust we will have today.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. President, the House seen some report.
Yeah, we were honored. It was a great report. No collusion, which I knew anyway. No coordination, no nothing. It's a witch hunt. That's all it is. There was no collusion with Russia, if you can believe this one. She probably can't believe it. Who can? But the report was very powerful, very strong. There was no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian people. As I've said many times before, I've always said there was no collusion, but I've also said there has been nobody tougher on Russia than me. With that all being said, if we can get along with Russia, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But there has been nobody tougher on Russia than me. I was very honored by the report. It was totally conclusive, strong, powerful. Many things said that nobody knew about and said in a very strong way. They were very forceful in saying that the Clinton campaign actually did contribute to Russia. So maybe somebody ought to look at that. But what we really should do is get on with our lives and get on with a lot of things. We have a lot of great things happening, including potentially with North Korea, Angela, as you see. A lot of very positive things happened over the last 24 hours. We're in total touch with both North Korea and South Korea. We'll be setting up a meeting very shortly. We have it broken down to probably 2 sites now, 2 or 3 sites, locations, and hopefully we're going to have great success. We'll see what happens, but hopefully we're going to have great success. So President Moon and I are speaking, and we're speaking very much with South Korea and with North Korea. The relationships are building and building strongly, and this will be a great thing for the world. This will be a great thing for Germany, but this will be a great thing for the world. Angela and I have discussed this over the period of the last 15 months quite a bit, North Korea, the North Korean problem, and I think you're seeing that a lot of very positive things are happening.
Do you expect any agreement on Iran today, Mr. President?
I don't know. I think we'll be talking about Iran probably, but I don't necessarily expect it one way or the other. I know we're going to have a very good discussion on Iran, as I did with Emmanuel, was just left, the president of France. So we'll be having discussions on Iran. We'll be having discussions on trade. We'll be having various discussions.
What will you do, Mr. President, to ensure that Kim isn't just trying to play the U.S. like the Kims have?
Oh, I don't think he's playing. No, I don't think he's playing. And you know, it's never gone like this. It's never gone this far. I don't think it's ever had this enthusiasm for them wanting to make a deal. And yeah, I agree. The United States has been played beautifully like a fiddle because you had a different kind of a leader. We're not going to be played, okay? We're going to hopefully make a deal. If we don't, that's fine. The United States in the past was played like a fiddle. Money going in and nobody knew what was happening the day after an arrangement was made. If you call it a deal, I doubt it, but an arrangement was made. They start with the nuclear weapons again. That's not happening to us. We will, I think, come up with a solution. And if we don't, we leave the room with great respect. We leave the room and we just keep it going. I also will tell you that President Xi of China has been very helpful at the border. And I want to acknowledge that. I think it's very important to acknowledge. But President Xi has been extremely helpful to me. We have a very good relationship. He's been extremely helpful to me at the border. So we'll see where it all goes. But no, this isn't like past administrations. We don't play games. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go. Make your way out. Let's go, guys. Make your way out.
You said earlier this week that you weren't interested in intervening with the DOJ, but that might change at some point.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
So the President of the United States, I want to be careful not to step on him there because sometimes he'll take an extra question. And this is live playback, so we had not seen that before. He's with the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel. And first off, let's just start with his words. We are not going to be played, the United States. Rachel, you perked up when you saw that. A couple of issues there, first with Iran and also North Korea. This president says, yeah, we've been played like a fiddle. That's not going to happen anymore.
And that's what he ran on, all these bad deals. And we see it with from NAFTA to the situation in North Korea to this situation where he's saying, look, these are bad deals. I can make them better. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to scrap NAFTA, or in this case, maybe he's not going to scrap Iran. What he's saying is, I can get you a better deal. And the way to do that is to be willing to walk away and be on the offense. And I think that's what he's really good at.
You know, it's interesting because we all kind of were watching it and had a pause when the president was enumerating the things that he and Merkel will be talking about. And I think it was you who said, oh, wow, OK, so that's something that's not atop the list, the deal with Iran. I wonder how much he'll be listening to her about that topic.
Well, it was surprising because it seemed contradictory. At first he said, I don't know that we're going to be talking about Iran. And then says, we're going to have a very detailed discussion. And I was like, well, so I don't know if in his mind it wasn't
clear. But those
are
two different things, right? Is he going to be listening to her or telling her what he's going to do? Which would be decidedly different from what we've seen from any other president.
But what do you mean by that?
I mean that he is considering not recertifying that deal on May 12th.
That I understand. I thought, though, that you were saying he wouldn't listen.
And can she change his mind?
Well, I think that what it is not about Merkel changing his mind so much, Harris, as a group of international leaders, including Macron, who was here, now Merkel as well. And you're going to get, remember, it's a six-party deal that is involved with the Iranians. So you have a number of people who are suggesting, hey, hold on, if you're going to scrap this, you open the door to the Iranians then going full bore into developing nuclear weapons. At the moment, we have a baseline that says they can't.
Check what they're doing on the ground now.
Right.
I don't think that's the issue. The verification, according to our national security people, is good at the moment.
It's where
the problem is that then you have the Iranians involved in terrorism. Yeah. You have the Iranians developing missiles that we think they shouldn't be developing and shipping not only money, but armaments into the Middle East.
To that point quickly, the point is it's not only about redoing the deal. It's about punishing Iran for bad behavior.
Correct.
The nuclear deal was supposed to improve some of their behavior. It's gotten worse. They've tried to take over territory. They're fighting proxy wars. They're using Hezbollah to attack our allies. It's also about punishing Iran for bad behavior.
We also know they're untrustworthy because they've said that. They said if you pull out of this deal, it'll be much worse than where we were before. That means they are implicitly untrustworthy.
You heard President Trump referring to it a moment ago with Chancellor Merkel, a historic summit between the leaders of North and South Korea. What that means for the president's planned meeting with North Korea's dictator. Stay close. Watched it. President Trump reacting today to a historic summit that could have worldwide implications. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visiting the South. It's the first time a leader from the North has done so since a 1953 armistice suspended hostilities in the Korean War. Notice, that wasn't a peace agreement. They announced they would work with the United States and China to declare an official end to that war and then seek that agreement to establish permanent peace, including complete nuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. This coming ahead of President Trump's planned meeting with Kim Jong-un. And after a visit by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he made a secret trip during Easter weekend while he was still CIA director to meet with the North's leader. President Trump tweeted this earlier. Korean War to end. The United States and all of its great people should be very proud of what is taking place in Korea. Katie?
Well, watching this last night, I was actually on Kennedy's show, and it really was incredible to watch this history play out in real time and to watch the handshaking and the walking together and the walking down the red carpet and to know this hasn't happened since 1953, I believe. Yeah. It really is incredible. Now, does this mean we're going to get farther and get a permanent deal? Not necessarily. There's a lot of verification that has to happen with the North Koreans, but to see the progress here, I think is really inspiring. And I think that the president deserves a lot of credit for taking the heat from the critics. I know that the Twitter diplomacy sometimes is nerve-wracking for everybody, especially when he's talking about having a bigger nuclear button. But it seems to have worked out so far. And so I'm excited to see what's happening moving forward. And if you look at the words that were said by the North Korean officials, they were thanking the South Koreans for allowing this to happen. The South Koreans were very gracious in saying Kim Jong-un was very courageous in coming
diplomatically, that is huge.
Right, it's a big deal. So it just was nice to see them coming together.
You are hearing talk of words like Nobel Peace Prize from Senator Lindsey Graham and others. What do you think?
Well, he would deserve it if that happened.
Our president,
Donald Trump, would deserve it. Certainly more than Obama did after 8 months and doing nothing. Well, listen, what we saw yesterday was unthinkable just a few months ago. And the other thing he said in the tweet, besides what should be the headline on the newspapers today, which is Korean war to end, the other thing he said, and I think it's important, he congratulated the American people, and specifically those who put him in office. And they do deserve credit for the path that we're on and what I think will probably be an end. The reason is they have taken Trump voters who took a chance on this president and his style of negotiating on behalf of not just America, but the world in this regard, with regards to this specific North Korean situation, is they've been called racist, they've been called betrayers to women, betrayers to their race, but the Trump voters, and they put a man in office who was so strong. He literally, I think, went to Mattis and said, what's the biggest problem facing the world? North Korea? I'll take that, because we know that he has been dealing with North Korea since day one in office. That's who we put in office. I think we do deserve congratulations for that.
I could almost go to Juan with this, but I want to go to Kennedy because I already know what you're going to say. Why do you think, or do you think, Democrats will give this president credit?
I think they'll do everything in their power to not give him credit, and I think that's a mistake. I think for once, they don't have to fall all over themselves doling out lavish praise, but what they should do is take a step back and let this process work, because what's really interesting, as Americans, we should really take note of the fact that China has been so heavy-handed on the Korean Peninsula, and there's no way that their heavy-handedness would have ever led to a meeting like this, because that's something that China doesn't want. It is the shift in American diplomacy, whether or not you like the president,
talking about
that has allowed China to be marginalized in this moment. It is because of the foreign policy and reaching out to North Korea and having North Korea reach back, that the two Koreas were able to, hand in hand, have their leaders go back and forth between North Korea and South Korea and meet alone jubilantly, optimistically for a half hour, and that the credit goes to America and its president.
Well, I think if there's a Nobel Peace Prize to be given out, it should go to President Moon of South Korea. He's the one who really opened the door and had to say to the Trump administration, the hard line here is not the way to go. And I think it seemed
Can I step in for just a second? Because we're talking about diplomacy. Can't there be some between Democrats and Republicans, at least on this issue?
There is. I don't think there's any argument. I think everybody wants this to be successful.
And you don't think that that's topped off by really looking at where the change came?
Yeah, the change came from President Moon, who's, I mean, he is not a conservative South Korean. He is someone who has said, not only to President Trump, but to the Chinese, we need to talk with the North, while other people wanted to stonewall it.
Liberals predicted nuclear war based on Trump's strategy.
Yeah, if it was up to Trump's behavior.
They predicted that, and look where we're at. They deserve credit. He deserves credit, and he took on this issue from day one.
And it's not over yet. They potentially may meet. The president may get up, walk away. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, but I'm just saying this issue has been there since President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama.
You could say President Obama was
they are going to continue to talk, but I'm going to move on.
It didn't get us to this point.
President Trump responding to the latest interview with former FBI Director James Comey. Comey says he did not break the law when he released memos of his private conversations with the president. The president begs to differ.
I don't consider what I did with Mr. Richmond a leak. I told him about an unclassified conversation with the president.
How to stymie that investigation and not cooperate with U.S. officials. This, of course, takes more of a heightened view here, or heightened look, because of what she's been telling Congress and what she had previously maintained, that she wasn't communicating with other governments, that she had no ties to the Russian government or wasn't working, at least in a capacity, with the Russian government. But now she's acknowledging that she did so. This goes back to that 2016 meeting at Trump Tower, which was attended by Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort, which at first was a discussion, at least according to the Trump campaign, about adoption, but then some type of offer about whether or not they had information on the Hillary Clinton campaign. So that lawyer at the center of this, which is also, while the Mueller probe is ongoing, now admitting that she was working with the Russian prosecutor's office since 2013. Katie.
All right, Rich Edson of the State Department, thank you so much. So Kennedy, Natalia turned out to be an informant, and the other thing we can call her is a spy.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think anyone is foolish enough to say we should trust the Russian government or people who claim to not be agents, especially when they're peddling information to disrupt our elections and our political system. And that's where it seems everyone was getting dirt for the 2016 presidential campaign. Everyone.
Right.
And it's a sad state of affairs
that lied under oath for sure to the Senate Judiciary.
Yeah, what a surprise!
Of course, she was going to tell.
What else
not
is
beholden to tell the truth the way that American citizens are.
Yeah, and who else has been operating as a Russian spy?
But Rachel, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because Donald Trump Jr. took this meeting.
Yeah.
And it maybe was foolish of them to do so.
It was. Well, first of all, this came out of the Fox News alert. I don't think this is breaking news. I'm not surprised that she was a spy. And by the way, I don't think any Russians are going to get any more appointments with campaigns after this, because everybody's going to assume everybody is a spy and nobody wants this under their belt. But I
wait
think,
a minute.
Who was Russian working for appointed campaigns?
No, I'm saying meetings, Russians getting meetings with campaigns in the future. No one's going to want to take a meeting with them. But the liberals, the Democrats, this is really not good for them, because what they're going to do is continue on with this Russian narrative, which is going to be politically bad for them. As you know, the country is focused on all the wins from North Korea to the economy. They're going to keep going Russia, Russia, Russia. And I can tell you, I live in the Midwest. No one's talking about Russia. There is no goods to show for this investigation.
But Juan, there are bigger questions about how Natalia actually got into the country. She wasn't supposed to be able to travel to the United States. She was then given a visa by the Justice Department, I believe. So the way that she got into the country was pretty iffy. And now, considering, you know, they knew, and now we especially know, since she's admitting it, that she was a spy for senior officials close to Vladimir Putin, of course, it seems to be a problem for the Obama Justice Department as well.
Not at all. The reason that she was let in was because she was able to show that she was representing a client in, I think it was Brooklyn, and
for,
that she had
a trial, and then
that she had a right as his counsel to be in attendance.
But not.
It was not about setting up a meeting at Trump Tower with Trump officials. Nobody anticipated that. That's where she was in violation of her visa case.
So would it have mattered
but I
if
do
she were a
think that
spy
the big
even
news
in that instance?
It does matter. I mean, as a lawyer.
In terms of how they vetted her to come into the country?
Well, what they did was they responded, and by the way, she had been previously kept out of the country because of this. But once she was able to make the case that she was the proper and appointed lawyer, second. But the big news here, I think, is this. Remember Donald Trump on the airplane having to write a memo to explain why his son and campaign officials were in a meeting with this woman. And Special Counsel Mueller is looking at that, very interested in whether or not that might constitute obstruction of justice.
Harris, last word.
You know, it's interesting what Kennedy said, because if both sides were, you know, guilty of having some sort of relationship or meeting or whatever it was, then maybe we need to take a look at how we allow meetings to go on in campaigns and do a better vetting process at a different level as a government, because we need to be looking out for both sides.
But as a political spouse, I will say this: if somebody comes to me, and I'm not justifying what happened there, but I'm just saying, it's human nature. If somebody says I have dirt on your political opponent, I'd be like, yeah, let me hear it.
That's called collusion.
We're going to move on. President Trump's battle with the mainstream media rages on, and now the president planning to ditch tomorrow night's White House Correspondents' Dinner for the second straight year. We'll debate that decision and discuss the potential impact on the battle in this midterm election year. That's ahead.
For the second year in a row, President Trump is planning to skip the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is tomorrow night. Woohoo! Instead, he will be holding a campaign-style rally in a town named Washington, Michigan. In a campaign email to supporters, the president saying, quote, "My staff asked Mr. President, the White House Correspondents' Dinner is coming up. Will you go?" And I said, why would I want to be stuck in a room with a bunch of fake news liberals who hate me? And now questions on the potential impact on this decision as Republicans face a battle to secure their congressional majorities in the midterm. So, Katie, isn't that answer, why would I want to be stuck in the room with these people who hate me? Isn't that what people love about him? It's so honest.
I think it would be fun for him to go and give it back to them. You know, go and make fun of them back to their face, because they can't handle it either. The press complains about the president having thin skin. They have thinner skin than I think Donald Trump does. And for him to stand up there and give it back to him, I think would be great. But politically speaking, this is very smart. Republicans have a bit of an uphill battle when it comes to the midterms. So I think it's a good thing that he's going to be out on the campaign trail trying to get the base riled up because, as we know, the date for the election keeps getting closer and closer. But I do think it would be fun for him to go to one of these things and give it back to the press.
So, Juan, you've been to this event. You're going, I understand. Can the president win on their turf like that, as Katie suggested?
Oh, wherever the president goes, he is the #1 attraction. So he would control the platform. I mean, just his presence would be a sensation because, of course, it's Trump in the media. He went to the Gridiron Dinner, as you know, Rachel, and was there with a very select group of high-ranking media. This is more, I don't want to say cattle call, but cattle call.
Oh,
everybody, what do they call it? They call it the nerd prom or something like that because it's
and nobody outside Washington even understands
well,
what that means.
but it's an
I will say
important
this,
moment, and I think the president would control it and would make a lot of news. I think he's playing the campaign.
He's going to make
rally
news
thing.
anyway.
Ask
those people in Washington, Michigan.
You're
making plenty of news.
Come
on, you're there. That's got to be great.
You know this event well.
I do know this event well, and I advocate as a journalist. I go every year, every time that I can. I liked the juxtaposition between having a current president and not having one last year. It forces us to do what we probably should be doing anyway, making it less nerdy and more about networking and talking
I like the nerdy.
and and talking with each other about what questions get asked and which ones don't. And I still think it's an interesting event. Now, the president will make news no matter where he goes, and so there will be a number of us who will be covering that as well. We can do both. We can multitask. It can happen.
Yes.
It's a great chance to talk with the president's staff.
Kennedy, is he smart to get out of the swamp and go to Michigan? Is that the right political move?
Feeds off the hatred. He absolutely loves the animosity. It is his lifeblood. He shouldn't kid himself that he wouldn't have a great time doling out sick burns. I think it's a missed opportunity. I think he would love it. I think the press would love it. But more importantly, I think the American people would savor the moment.
I think it's a great political move to go to Michigan. That's my opinion. Anyway, more Outnumbered in just a moment.